had to do 2 videos. You know, I don't really go over the home computer stuff because I didn't have a home computer of my own until like the 2000s. You laugh, but I know. So they cover, there is some war gaming they did cover, right? This is one of the early war games, right? Or that early, one of the war games that was known to the public, of course. Dungeons and Dragons game. My man, shout out to Varg, although he liked Merc. But the point I'm making is, I'm not really gonna cover this too much just because it was not my experience, but it might be your experience. I want to go over Nintendo. I want to go when the Japanese start to really rise in the home video game system. Okay, the crash of '83 had destroyed the North American retail establishment for selling the home systems, but the guy from Nintendo of America, Minoru Arakawa, right, he noticed that people were still playing arcade games. Right? Shoddy business practices were to blame for the crash, not lack of interest. Well, that's true, man. 83, 84, 85, we were in the arcades. So it's just interesting how they go, right? The Nintendo strategy, right? Keeping costs low wouldn't be enough, okay? Now you can't do what Atari did, what that guy Bushnell did, whatever. Right? Right. Nintendo Popular Game and Watch series, right? You had the right, these things. These things were huge. I don't, not a lot of video game people don't mention these things. These liquid crystal games, digital calculator chips, right? These things were huge. These things were everywhere. Everybody had these. But anyway, all right. So Nintendo's the main head, right, realized that keeping costs low wouldn't be enough. Okay, quality games were paramount. It's interesting how you organize the divisions here. Look at this. Very interesting. Very Japanese. Okay. You don't have the hucksterism. Okay. You see something. You're gonna see like real. And I love the quality of the Atari games in themselves, but you're starting to see now where there's a different mindset at work here. Okay. You could bring up all the 80s Japanese cliches. I remember when it was like, oh, the Japanese are buying up New York City. I kind of miss those days. The Japanese bookstores where they had manga. I kind of miss the old when Japan was before its major recession. But just getting back to here, you see like the division of labor, right? And how the Famicom, obviously the Famicom looked like something like a reject from a robot show, like combining robot show. But this is the system I remember starting to see, right? The famous. I mean, this thing is iconic. Okay. Right, the game packs instead of cartridges, right? This is interesting. This is interesting. This is business practices now at work. Okay? The Nintendo fixated on preventing a repeat of too many games on the market. Right, so even the third-party publishers, Capcom, Bandai, Taito, Konami, could publish no more than 5 NES games a year. Interesting, very interesting. You don't want to flood the market. You don't want to take the money and run, right? In the American way. So, like that. Semi-monopolistic practices. Well, it is a national homogeneous country. There's benefits to that, huh? But of course, the games. I mean, gee, dude. Now, remember Mario Brothers, right? That was an interesting game. Okay, Super Mario Brothers. I remember playing this at a friend's apartment. This game was like, dude, I can't explain to you if you, unless you're my age, playing this game, dude. This game was crazy, psychedelic, right? Right. It was just, so it's just interesting looking at the, like, of course, Legend of Zelda was a huge thing. I didn't really play that too much, but, right, so now, of course, competition. I like this is another interesting thing, right? No foreign-born people, no minority ethnic groups of any real size, right? The Ainu, right? The Japanese culture is famous for everyone acting like they're all in it together. Well, shit, who does it? Right? Competition can be fierce, right? But and you can see how the competition, though, in Japan actually seemed to make things improve rather than in America, where it's almost like gangs fighting each other and trying to swindle you, or all coming together to rip you off. So, and you get the Nintendo guys talking smack. I don't like the idea of one company monopolizing industry. And this guy's like, yo, Sega, you ain't shit. Whoa, okay, here we go. So now we start going here, right? It's interesting. The graphics. I mean, Jesus, look at the graphics. Okay, so now like you said, they don't mention obviously the Sega 1000 was only in Japan. The Master System is what I had. I got caught in this little battle here where Sega lost, and I paid the price for it. At least in America, I told you it was popular, very popular in England, in the UK, and South America. But the Sega Genesis. So by '89, yours truly is sort of not playing video games. I discovered other things, and essentially, so I'm not so clear with the history of the Sega Genesis. Remember this asshole? This fucking guy, Joe Lieberman from Connecticut. But you know, because of the arcade games like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2. Anyway, that was like the last video games I was playing. Yeah, and they go over like Tetris, right? It was created by Alexey Pajitnov. Interesting. Yeah, Tetris was crazy, dude. The Game Boy. I told you what happened when I wanted a Game Boy and I didn't get it. I was like, no, you're not getting it. And of course you get the. Anyway, Japan, as you can see, John Madden. But you see the interesting thing. This story I didn't know, right? Is where now another big Japanese company is going to come in. You have Sega, which is sort of, I guess, multinational thing. You have Nintendo, which is very Japanese, right? But now you have Sony is going to get into the act, right? So apparently there was some betrayal that happened. Apparently Nintendo and Sony were supposed to collaborate. Okay, but Nintendo backstabbed Sony and worked with Philips. So I mean, maybe this is dramatized, but I mean, not really. Public shame, having stood a lust for revenge. He told the guy, "You're gonna develop a CD-based console, so now we're gonna move away from the cartridges." Okay, Sony, the damn compact disc. Remember these things? And the Sony PlayStation comes out now. By '95, I am already very disillusioned and kind of a very wayward young man. But I remember when I was rooming with people, someone had a PlayStation. Yeah, and I remember this game, Parappa the Rapper. I remember that. That game was kind of cool. So, of course, the big dog for this was Resident Evil, and that's the last kind of video games I played at home. So. Grand Theft Auto, a lot of people was talking about this game, but I was always kind of younger. Okay, it sounded cool though that you could do all this crazy stuff, but I never got around to playing it. I knew people that had it, but like we always did something else. Like we would watch, like free pay-per-views and wrestling and boxing and stuff on the hookup, box where you could decode the signal. Drinking beer and doing stuff with my my late fiance. So anyway, I want to wrap this up in terms of the video games. Ultimately, what is the verdict of history? Right? I mean, Xbox. I mean, that's even later. I remember people using it as a DVD player, so which got more use from me than playing any games. Was playing DVDs, but in the end, okay. Yeah, I recommend this. This is pretty interesting work. If you're really interested in the history of video games, I just went over stuff that I thought was interesting to me, but I keep bringing up the theme, right? You don't confuse symptoms for causes, okay? Symptoms can feed back into something that's already in a bad state, but essentially, the video games, they were kind of cool. They were interesting. Obviously, just like anything else, too much of something is no good. But in terms of its impact on us, on the attention spans, people, on the generations, particularly Generation X, and everyone after, I guess I don't know. I would say it's not it wasn't a bad thing. It was an interesting diversion towards the end of this civilizational cycle. So, and I always listen. I'll always remember playing video games fondly. It was fun. Okay, mindless, whatever. But uh, yeah, you know what? The gloom and doom that I always like to have. Nah, these were pretty cool. These are pretty cool. So, and I will say also, the height of the video game thing, friggin' Tron, that movie Tron, and that 82, I think it was 82 came out. That was like the sweet spot for video games in the arcade, for 2600. To me, that was the golden era. But I can see also where the later 80s is that too. But anyway, enough of me yapping about this. Yeah, I would recommend this to video game aficionados later.